Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us as we prepare during the month of Elul for the coming high holidays, the Yamim Noraim. Today's subject is letting go, which began last week when Gary led us in meditation and spoke about letting go and how we can begin that journey via meditation. Today, Elaine and I will delve further into this concept. Letting go, moving on. Don't let the bad guys get you down. Don't let them rent space in your head. These are all terms of advice that refer to letting go of past hurts, of past grudges, even past mistakes, in order to allow yourself to move on with a clearer head. So I have a little story to start off. I know of someone who always had difficulties with the extent of her husband's devotion to his mother. It culminated in the husband taking his mother to buy a baby present for their newborn son the day after their son was born, while the wife and the newborn son were still in the hospital. The wife felt that the husband's place was with her and that the husband's brother should have taken care of her mother-in-law in this instance. Perhaps she was right, perhaps it was a difference of opinion. Well, to make a long story short, this was the subject of their constant arguing for 36 years. Everyone had to hear the wife complaining about this until they no longer wanted to call her or hang out with her. Finally, her husband of 36 years walked out and soon found happiness elsewhere, all because she couldn't let go of a perceived hurt. Okay. The serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's very powerful and summarizes a lot of what we're going to discuss today. What does it mean to let go? Our definition would be choosing to accept the way things are and not continue to think about things out of your control. Focus on what we can control. What do we need to let go of? Does anybody have any suggestions what they feel that we should let go of?
You can unmute yourselves. I think if you can't, you can write it in the chat. Or raise your hand and I can unmute you. I'll stop sharing for a minute. Okay, let me.
Anne is raising her hand.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Anne, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh, there's just so many. I mean, we need to let go of anger, which can really burden us. And we need to let go of anger at ourselves for the mistakes we've made. And I found that I had a father who never let go. He was always angry at people. And I mean, if he was angry at you, he was angry forever. And it just cost him a lot in being bitter. And I find when I let go of anger at other people, it's like I've taken a great big heavy thing off my back and I feel freer.
That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. Gary,
does anybody else have any thoughts?
Go ahead, Gil.
Okay.
Anybody
I think
else?
Susan is unmuted.
Oh, I was going to say you can't undo what happened in the past. You can't rewrite it. So you just have to learn to move on.
Excellent point. Absolutely right.
Anybody else have ideas of what kinds of things people need to let go of besides anger and the past? Yeah, Shreya? You can unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself, Shreya.
You have to let go of negative thoughts, bad thoughts.
What kind of bad thoughts?
Now with the virus and.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of us are holding on to.
Don't be afraid.
Okay. Right. So a lot of us are holding on to a lot of fear right now, including myself. So if we can learn to try to let go, it doesn't mean to just go crazy and wild, but to, at least in our heads, to feel a little less burdened by the fear, that would be a good thing, right? Yeah. So good. Anybody else have any ideas what we need to let go of? Anything?
Okay, so I could give you some examples.
Let me just mute everyone again and let me share the screen again. Okay, go ahead, Gail.
Okay, so some of the things we could let go of are some possessions, hurtful relationships, boring or stressful jobs, things in the past, resentments, anger, including anything COVID related, jealousy, rumination in general. And we could discuss if anybody would like to share an example of how they feel personally, how they let go of something or what they needed to let go of in the past, how that helped them. And I think Anne mentioned that when she let go of something, she felt lighter and less burdened. If anybody has examples like that, we'd love to hear them.
Can I add something?
Sure.
I feel that my kids have been married, both of them, for a very long time. And you have to figure out that you're no longer the center of their life as far as opinions and what they should and should not do. And they have spouses who will always come first. It's very hard to let go of your kids.
It's an important point. If that burdens you, if you keep on thinking about that, then you dwell on it and it doesn't help. It just makes you bitter or resentful or regretful, and it doesn't help.
And instead of enjoying the time with them, you're feeling bad about what they've done or not done or how they haven't listened to or whatever. So
Right.
yeah.
You're not
And it also-
concentrating on the good parts.
Yeah, it also spoils the outings if you say something. And also you have to realize that these are your children's, hopefully, life partners.
Mhm.
And just let it go and not say a word.
Easier said than done, right, Natalie?
Oh, yeah.
Mayor, you were trying to say something?
Yeah, when you were saying about examples of what you need to let go of, I think it's different for different people. Different people have to let go of different things. We all have different situations, but one of the examples that Gail brought up was stressful or boring job. Now that sounds very pretty in theory, but what if there is a person that needs to have that stressful and boring job? And that person needs that job, period. You can't let go of it. There are some things that you cannot let go of it, and you have to learn to live with them and hopefully live with them happily. And there is a way of doing that. And I can cite some examples, but so that's basically what I wanted to say for now. And others should, comment.
So letting go could also mean acceptance. You let go of the anger or the resentment you feel about it, and you just accept it. You make peace with it. Just like you make peace with a grudge that was in the past that you can't change. You could make peace if you have to with a job that you don't like, or you could do something about it, or you could find sources of pleasure that would supplement the stressful or the boring job. But acceptance is also part of letting go. And in Gary's meditation, I think he talked a little bit about that you're accepting, excuse me, you're accepting and you're wishing well to everybody, even if you don't particularly like the situation. You're in a certain place. You're not keep on dwelling at it and wanting to change something that you can't control.
Yeah, but that sounds very, very nice. But it's in theory it works beautifully, but in practice it's not so simple. You're saying that like love everybody. What if somebody's taking advantage of in a business deal and it's an ongoing situation, for example? How can you love such a person? How can you wish well to such a person? If you're saying that you have to learn to live with it and not eat yourself up or not give that person space in your head, hating that person, that sounds more doable than what you're saying, love that person. It depends on the situation.
Well,
every situation is different, but it sounds good. I mean, I wish life were that simple.
I don't think I could love a person that was doing harm to me, but that's a difference between not letting them sit in your head and keep on thinking about
agree.
them.
I agree.
I think Gary was talking more about loving humanity. I think it was more about loving,
what is the process? It is a process. What is the process of letting go? It's so easy to say, well, just let it go. But there are some things that you can't dismiss or push away. They've impacted you in a very powerful, powerful way. And you say, well, don't let it live in your head. Just let it go. What does that mean? Just like, I had this conversation with Rabbi Yuri a few years ago. Love thy neighbor like yourself. Oh, it sounds wonderful, but it's not realistic. Now, letting go, what are we really talking about? For example, and I said to my husband, our fathers grew up in Poland and were subject to a lot of anti-Semitic attacks. And through till the day they died, they had such hatred and anger and rage against people from Poland who had really deeply hurt them. How do they let go of that? Should we say, well, you just accept it, just live with it, just yeah, you of course
No,
you don't
you don't
walk
let
around
it.
with the feeling all day long. And
You don't let it take over your. You don't let it take over your
you
whole
don't,
life.
but you don't let it go either.
No, you can't. And if we could let go everything so easily, nobody would be sick and nobody would have hard feelings and nobody would be
Right.
going to psychiatrists and nobody would,
That's
it is easier
right.
said than done. But if we don't try to address it, then we're not helping.
No, but it's not about addressing it. It's, yeah, of course you don't dwell on it every minute, every day of your life, but it's something that has impacted who you've become in a certain way. A part of you has forever been impacted. And as much as you may try, to push it back, it in many ways propels you to make certain choices one way or another. And so this term letting go is, we're talking about perhaps minor little things that go on,
right.
but what are those minor things that we can let go of? And if they're not so minor, what does that process entail?
Well, we're going to talk a
Hopefully
little
we'll
about that.
I-
Yeah. Anne, what
Anne
did you
has
want to
her
say?
own. You have
You're
to
muted,
unmute yourself, Anne.
Oh,
I did it for you. Go ahead. Now I muted. Anne, you're muted again.
or I'm unmuted.
Now you're
I
fine.
just wanted to say, even we're not talking about small things. We're really talking about major, major things. And letting go, saying, we're not saying, oh, there's nothing I can do. Acceptance is not a passive thing. It's not that, oh, I lied back and there's acceptance. You have to work at acceptance. It's very
okay. I know, but then I understand that. So the how is the question. What is
Okay,
the
we're
process?
going to try
I'm
to.
interested in hearing other people's
It's
ideas.
not, it's not only minor, it's not only major things, and it's minor things that start to grate on us. The example that I gave was a person that I know, is a relative actually, and I think that was a minor thing. I think that was wonderful that he was so caring about his mother, but the person didn't think so, and this relatively minor thing, it eroded their marriage, eroded her ability to deal with others. And obviously that wasn't the only thing. That was her personality.
Gail.
Okay, wait.
That was just, all right, go ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna stop for a second and get back to our presentation.
Right.
And then there'll be hopefully time, to comment on other things, because we're gonna cover some of what you're talking about, I think,
Okay.
and give some techniques and things. So let's get back to that, and then we can go back to this. Okay, 1 second. Let me just get where I can click on the next slide. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk about why it's important for your mental health to let go. And I thought this was a good quote that, who gave it to me, Gail? I forget who gave it to me. Tina,
Somebody
did
in our
you?
group, I think.
Yeah, someone in the group. I can't even remember who, but maybe Tina, did you? I don't know. Anyway,
Well,
I
you didn't
can't.
say the quote yet, so, yeah.
Well, it's on the screen, isn't it? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so hate corrodes the container that it's carried in. So just to state the obvious, if you continue to hate someone or you can carry it over, it doesn't have to be just hate. If you are filled with negative feelings, it's going to hurt you. So if you hate that boss or whatever, that person who's hurt you in the past, the old boyfriend, the whatever it is, it's not going to hurt that person. Who is it hurting? it's going to hurt you and it's going to affect your life. So I think that's a really great quote. Somebody attributed it to George Bush, and I saw other people attribute it to other things. So I didn't put you know, who said it, but I think it's a great quote. So if you let go, studies show it will make you happier. It can help prevent or help you to overcome some very self-destructive behaviors such as alcohol, drug abuse, and depression, anxiety, I'm sure suicidal thoughts and so on, because some people are just so obsessed with their feelings or their burdens that they can't let go of, that it leads to these very, you know, serious problems. And if you can let go, it can help prevent those problems. It frees up space in your head and in your life. Instead of having so much of your brain, think of your brain as in different compartments, instead of all of it being filled with these negative feelings and negative ideas about people and events in your past, it just opens you up to new possibilities. You just have more of that time and energy to focus on what's important. And it allows you to move forward rather than stay rooted in the past. And again, we're not talking about forgetting everything about your past. For example, one, you know, thing that you know, some people, you know, have lost a spouse, and I know some of you have, and you can't just say, oh, I'm going to let go of my, you know, sadness about my spouse. I'm going to let go of my anger that, you know, he died, and, you know, all this. It's not like that you can just get rid of all of it. The idea is just to maybe push it to a little smaller part of your brain so that you can move forward, but not to forget, just to make your life better. And it can lead, studies show that it leads to physical as well as mental health. And Gail mentioned the whole thing about no one would have heart attacks and all that if people let go, okay? And then the big question that Eva was asking, how do we let go? And there are two parts. I kind of divided it into two parts. And one of them is, I think, easier than the other. So I think taking action is actually easier than trying to think differently, because sometimes if you just say, oh, I'm going to think differently, it doesn't necessarily make you think differently, but I'm going to try to make it a little more concrete so that it seems like something maybe we could do. Okay, so the first part is going to be try to think differently. And here are some solutions. I know there are a lot of them, but I'm going to go through them. So the first thing is to recognize that you cannot change other people's behavior. You can only change your own. So as much as I might want my brother to be different and go on and think constantly about how he should be different, I can't make him different. So if I can somehow recognize that I can't do anything to change him, I can only change either how I think about him or how I interact with him or how I don't interact with him. So that's one thing, okay? Again, we'll take, you know, write in the chat if you have questions or comments, and then we'll get to everything. I read this, that it's an interesting idea. Try to look at the situation that you're angry or resentful about as if you're an outsider, viewing the situation from the outside. So instead of looking only from your point of view, look as an observer. And what would that person say about the situation? Could everyone mute themselves, please, so I don't have to stop sharing and mute everybody? Just please mute yourself if you're unmuted, because I hear some noise. So anyway, look at it from the outside. And then the other suggestion, the next one is try to see the situation from the other person's point of view, okay? And that can help you possibly lower your resentment. If you can see think about what motivates the other person, maybe you won't be as angry and resentful and hold as much of a grudge if you can see it from their perspective or from the outside, as I said. Then you could say to yourself something like, I've learned from that experience. If there was an experience that was hurtful, and I'll have a better life now, instead of thinking, I can't believe that happened, how awful, and over and over and over, just saying those things instead of just saying, okay, I've learned from it, I'm going to move on, things will be better. Try to train yourself, and I tried this today, and it actually worked pretty well, because I was thinking that I was angry about something, and I did this. So when you think about that grudge, that person, or the situation that you're holding on to, train yourself to say, no, stop. This is not going to help me. One of those or all of them. And according to the experts, if you keep doing that, if every time this bad thought comes into your head, you say one of those things, that eventually it will become automatic and you won't have to tell yourself to stop, you'll just stop, okay? And it won't be this big burden in your head. And ask what this experience has taught or will teach you. See that it has some value and then you can let it go. So try to see it as a learning experience, whatever it is, with whatever person or thing that happened in your life, and try to, move on. And then forgive the person who's harmed you, even if that person will never apologize. And again, this is about thinking, so it's in your head. You don't have to write a formal apology or, forgive them, in writing or in person, just in your head, and that will help you to move on. And also, because this is talking about change, recognize that it's okay to change your mind. So let's say you decided that John Smith was a horrible person and he bothers you and you're so mad about things he did 50 years ago, whatever it is, say, you know what, even though I've held this idea for 50 years, I don't have to keep it anymore. Things can change, people can change. I can change my thinking. I don't have to think that way forever, okay? And the next group of things are taking action. And I found these really interesting. So these are things that you can actually do to make you hopefully help you let go. Write down your negative feelings about the person or feeling you're hanging on to. So Anne would probably agree with this one, that writing down things sometimes can really help. I thought this was interesting. Write down a vow to let go of whatever you need to set free. Be specific. So don't just say, okay, I'm going to stop being angry about, my sister. Write down, what did your sister do that makes you angry, that you keep thinking about in your head? Write it down, that specific thing, and then say, what will be the benefits of letting go? And then put that in a spot in your house where you can see it. And sometimes write it down again, because we know from education that if you write something, it's more likely to be in your head. So put it in a place where you can see it often, and then rewrite it to try to get it into your head. Meditate to get calm and clear your head so that you can think more clearly, okay? Find distractors that keep your mind off of what you're holding on to. So, you start thinking about something, try to find some other way to channel that. Try another thought that can come into your head. Take care of yourself. Don't be mad at yourself for your negative feelings. Just try to, as I say, redirect them or compartmentalize them into a smaller part of your brain. And then, if necessary, distance yourself from those that have brought you unhappiness. So instead of continuing to deal with someone who over and over and over again has hurt you, and that makes you think bad things over and over again, just stop dealing with them as much as you possibly can. Now, again, like Mara said, if it's your boss, you can't really distance yourself very much, but you can spend less time in the room with them if possible. There are things you can do, but for a lot of us, especially with relationships, relationships with friends or family, people who bring you unhappiness that you're thrown together with a lot, try not to be thrown together with. Don't force yourself to see the person. Don't force yourself to call the person. If every time you call the person you get upset, maybe you don't need to call the person unless it's absolutely necessary for whatever reason. And then Gail actually, I think, brought up this one, and I think it's a good one. So in certain situations, for example, like COVID, for example, if you're really angry about the government's policy on masks, let's say, or certain governments, local governments, policy on masks, write to somebody in charge. Even if it might not help, it might help you to give that, to put that in writing. I'm mad about this. I'm mad about people who do such and such. Please change this, blah, blah, blah. You're angry about pollution, whatever it is you're angry about, try to write to someone who can do something about it or volunteer for something that's somewhat related. And then finally, our big finale in terms of what you can do is talk to friends or a supportive group. And hopefully that's what we've been doing during the pandemic in our mental health groups, is talk to a group so that you'll see you're not the only one who's had trouble letting go. And you'll see that those people, some of those people at least, have let go and have survived and they're okay. And you can encourage others to let go.
And that's the connection between the group, what we're doing, and this topic of conversation. How letting go is it's a laboratory. The support group can be a laboratory for your feelings, expressing your feelings, seeing how you could change them, how others could support you in that venture. And from Elaine's, after what Elaine said, I would like to ask if any of the members of the group, since most of you are here, how you felt about the group, about letting go, about how this group helped you in that regard. I do have some of your printouts.
You feel
Go ahead.
less
Go ahead, Anna.
isolated.
You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, well, Eva started talking and then Annalee and then Anne. Go ahead, Eva.
Well, you feel less isolated. You know, people need connection with one another. And a lot of us have been closeted in our house when the pandemic hit. And so it was good to be able to connect with people, familiar people, through the group.
Stops you from ruminating about by yourself, ruminating and letting the process of, the anger and the loneliness take hold of you.
No, it wasn't about ruminating. It wasn't about loneliness. It was about connection. It was about, feeling less a sense of isolation, which we felt especially at the beginning because we weren't used to it. We didn't know what it was really all about. So you sort of felt supported and connected to people whom was some of whom were familiar to you. So that was helpful.
Annalee?
Yeah, I was going to say a sense similar to what Eva mentioned, a sense of connection, and also sharing feelings, coping with COVID, and finding that other people had similar feelings and getting support from other members of the group and giving support to other members of the group. It was a safe place where I felt I wasn't going to be judged. I would be accepted for who I am and what my feelings are. And I, in turn, would also accept other group members and allow them to vent, allow them to talk, allow them to express their fears, anxieties, strengths, weaknesses. Very, very important during this very difficult time. So it really, for me personally, I think it was a wonderful group. I thank Gail and Elaine for really their leadership in the group. And it's it was a very hard topic to talk about, COVID, and it's still very much with us. And for me, at least I can speak for myself, it's very much with me. And I really need a place, besides talking to friends, which I do too, but a place where I can share these feelings about what's happening with COVID, how it's affected my life, how I want to behave moving forward. And that's been very important for me. And I really appreciated all the support that I got from other members in the group. And also that for me personally, some other personal relationships developed, which were very nice. So all in all, I think it really was and continued to be a very beneficial experience for me.
Thank you, Annalee. Before Anne speaks, I just want to connect what Annalee said with one of the points that I made on the presentation, just the idea, the part about writing to someone who can change something or volunteering. So even though we're not like volunteers, like nobody who participated in the group said, I'm volunteering to help others. The fact is what Annalee said, to listen to other people and to help other people. And so sometimes, I think Gail always brings this up, that if you help somebody else, it makes you feel better. So the fact that if ever during a session of the group, you know, you say something to somebody and they say, oh, that's helpful, or oh, that's interesting, or oh, I should think about that, it makes you feel good. So it's not just you're getting support from other people, but it feels good to give the support to other people.
And that's an excellent mental health tip, Elaine. And it's also, it probably helps us let go. If we could do something to help others, it helps us let go of some of the baggage that we may have about a certain subject.
Right.
So
Okay,
that's
Anne, what were you
one
going to
thing
say?
George, well, what was I going to say? I don't know. I think Annalise said it for me and said it beautifully. But I think I wanted to bring up one other thing, though, that of letting go in general, you know, and it ties in with being in the group, I guess, that it's very easy for people to fall into the self-pity mode, you know. And there was a study done in England in the 19th century or 20th century about journaling. And they found that people wrote in journals much more about their unhappy experiences than the happy ones, because we tend to focus so much on the unhappy things. And so, you know, I think being able to talk to other people is invaluable. And also, I mean, I used to focus on the negative terribly in my life, but I think doing a gratitude prayer every night is very helpful. And it doesn't have to be anything so, you know, like a whole Divine Torah. It can just be, you know, finding, say, 3 things to be grateful for in the day that's ending. And it also helps if you don't concentrate on things that just fell out of the sky for you, that you didn't do anything about, but the things that you had a hand in making better, because then that helps you the next time.
That's also an important tip that mental health professionals give people, to write a gratitude journal. Some people call it an acknowledgement journal because they think gratitude may be a little too hokey, but whatever works for you, or a positivity journal where you pick out the positives that help you during the day, and you focus, it helps you focus on it. The process of writing, it forces you to think, and it forces you learning stuff. I know that writing was my best tool to learn something and to remember it. So it sticks with you. It's muscle memory. So that's helpful too.
Yeah. Anybody else have any comments or any other techniques that you've used to help let go of anything that you want to share with us? Okay, just something I thought of when we were talking, just the idea of a group where you can vent your feelings, and you know, some of them negative. Maybe people don't feel as much all day long that they need to talk about it, and they save it for Monday and Thursday a little bit. And you know, it can kind of channel, you know, limit how often you talk about it. If
you get it off your chest.
Right,
within reason.
Right,
I've been told that that's not always the best technique, but I think that it works. You know, if you have a place where you go and you can get it off, or there are people that say, I'm only going to be angry a half hour a day, or only going to allow myself to think negative thoughts a half hour a day. I've heard that one too. Right. And they get it out, and they
Right. Natalie, you want to say something?
It's probably
I'm
not.
sorry, Anne. Natalie had her hand up. You can come back to you. Go ahead,
it's probably not going to sound good, but I'm going to say it anyway. When the group just first started and COVID invaded our lives, people in the group kept using the term we. We went to the post office and mailed the letter. The term we does not exist in my life, not by choice. And it was very hard for me to listen to people complaining about COVID when they could use the word we, because there was someone with them all the time.
Thank you, Natalie, for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, everybody's experience during this time is very different from everybody else's, and we have to acknowledge that it's definitely harder for some people than others, and
Sure.
You know, feel for each other. And I'm glad, Natalie, that maybe you're feeling a little better, in that you've come back a lot of times now, and we welcome you back and are happy that you gave us another chance. Anybody else? Yeah, Ashriya, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. Ashriya? Ashriya, you're not muted. You're muted.
Okay, I wanted to say about using we. So I lived with my husband so many years and everything we did together, and I always said we. When he passed away, I just kept saying we.
Yeah.
And then I said, I should say I. But I felt very lonely, very alone. And this group really helped me a lot because I love to be with people, and being on Zoom with a group is next to best. You can't
Thank you
be
so
with
much.
people in person, so you are on Zoom. So Zoom really helped me a lot.
That's so good to hear. Thank you so much. Very heartening to hear. Appreciate it.
We're happy to have you here. Anybody else want to share any good techniques or anything for letting go? We can always use more, all of us, I'm sure. Anything? Okay.
Okay.
So
So we're gonna end with how is this related to the high holidays? So the reason is we focus on asking God and each other for forgiveness. It's so important to forgive others as well. And as you know, that's the whole part, that you have to ask forgiveness for the sins that you've committed to your fellow man, not so much for the sins that you committed necessarily to God. And we can't forgive each other until we're able to let go of something. And also a new year can also mean a new start. We let go of what is unhealthy in our lives, and we embrace what is healthy, hopefully, at least as much as we can. And we welcome any comments, questions, or thoughts anybody wants to, and we hope we've piqued your interest and, start to think about this topic and how maybe we could let go of something. Can't let go of everything, obviously, we're human, but anybody that wants to add something, that's
I just have a
would be
question.
therapeutic for all of us. Yes, Emily.
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent presentation, and I'm wondering if we can get some of the written text that you showed.
Sure, I
we
can
somehow access that?
I can send, if you, anybody who wants it, well, I know, why don't, what was I gonna say? I can, you know what, maybe right now I can put it in the chat. Hold on one
I
second.
don't know how you get it out of the chat.
Yeah,
though.
I
How do
can't
do
get,
that?
can you do it
I
in
have
an-
Annalise, Tina's, Dan's, Ann's, Eva, Edna, Ellen's. The only ones that Natalie, Mary, the only one I don't have is Ashira and Susan, your
If you
emails.
put it on,
give us
if
your
you put the
emails.
printed word from the screen on your copier, it will come out on a piece of paper.
Say it again.
Huh?
What?
If you if you right now put the words on the screen, you just take your, unless I'm connected to my printer, but otherwise you can literally take a picture of it on your copier.
Yeah, but I don't think
it's
they want to
easier.
print it.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
think they want to print
they
it,
just
these
want to look at
pages.
it, but yeah, you have everybody's email? Who's
I have
doing-
everybody's but Ashira and Susan. So,
send you
so my
my
email is Gail Keren, GailKeren,
Can you write it in the
57
chat?
at
or no?
Gmail. Excuse me?
Can you write that in the chat or no?
Sure, oh yes, of course.
Yeah. I've somehow lost everybody's picture and I've lost my ability to use chat. This happens on my computer sometimes. So that's why I can't write anything right now, but I can send it all to you.
Thank
You know,
Thank
I'll
you.
send it to Gail. If she has all the addresses, she can send it to you. But, and if anyone wants to put their email in the chat, if you can get it. Again, I can't do anything right now because my computer went crazy.
The only
But,
one I don't have is, as I said,
I'll write-
Ashira and
I'll
Susan.
send it to you in the chat. Yes.
Did you see in the chat?
I'll send you in the chat. Yeah,
she said she sent it to you in the chat.
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Oh,
do it
she will.
now.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I want to comment about letting go or not holding on to your hatred. I look back at anybody who was a survivor, and had they not held on to their anger and their need to survive and their hatred, they would not have made it through.
Mm.
It's very true. I have to say, though, at any time when it comes to Holocaust survivors, that is such a rough topic, and we can't begin to put ourselves in their shoes. And I wouldn't begin to touch that topic. That whatever they feel is totally justified. I know my father-in-law would say he has a tana to God, he has a complaint to God. And I don't think even the most religious observant person could dispute any of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
And I actually
That's like a
object
whole
to
other
that statement.
category.
I actually object to that statement. I don't necessarily don't agree with it at all.
Say that again?
I said I disagree with Natalie's statement. I mean, my parents went through it, and they, you know, and that was not what got them through it.
What got them through it?
Love for each other. Love. My father was interned in England, and my mother, you know, was separated from him, and they just continued on because of the love for each other.
Mhm.
And this is why how I'm dealing with COVID. If they got through the Holocaust, I can get through COVID.
Right.
So they were were your parents, any of them, in the concentration camps? Your father was in a concentration camp?
Yeah, my father was interned in England because he was a German.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they came home one day, found one of Hitler's mistresses in their apartment. They left Germany, waited for the stuff to come to England. The war broke out. My father was interned, and my mother was stuck in England by herself. You know, and
but your father wasn't in a concentration camp
he
because
was interned.
Jewish.
What's the difference? He was interned.
No,
in a
I'm
camp
just clarifying. I'm just,
He
you
was
know, I didn't
interned
know
in a
his-
camp in England.
Mhm.
I see.
The same as what the Americans did to the Japanese.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm
Yeah.
not minimizing it. I'm just
Yeah.
you know, the history at all.
Yeah.
You know, I think people just deal with things in different ways. Some
Mhm.
people like to, I think with me, I'm outwardly the glass is full, but
Mhm.
inside it's empty sometimes.
Mhm.
And I try to keep a positive attitude. I really try to keep a positive attitude for the most part, because I know it'll drag me down, and I don't want to be dragged down,
Right.
you know, so I try my best to.
So you've learned to control your actions sometimes, even if you can't always control your thoughts.
Yeah, sometimes it's after the fact I say, why did you do that? Or why didn't you, you know, and I'm
Right.
angry with myself.
Right.
But, you know, as you started this session with, you can't change things that were, you can change things that will be, basically, what you can control. So I try to do that to the best.
I know it's a big difference, but I know when I was younger, when we're studying for tests or things like that, or even preparing for dates or something, I mean, younger people's problems. My theory was that if I could control it, then I would worry about it. But if it was out of my hands, like once I took the test, well, it's out of my hands now, I can't worry about it anymore.
Oh.
But I might worry about the test before because I knew that I wasn't studying enough, or I was, you know, studying enough, so then I have to take action to study more or to prepare, you know, whatever the case might be. And hopefully that served me well, I
Yeah.
hope.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything
and
else,
we
guys?
can continue any of this discussion if you'd like, you know, tomorrow when we meet. And we didn't say
I
hello
don't
to
think we're
Ellen
meeting
because she
tomorrow,
joined
Gail,
us.
right? Isn't tomorrow the date?
Thursday.
No, but I thought there was a conflict. Is that next week?
I thought it was the 26th, I'm not sure.
Okay, that's what I originally thought. And then I looked and I thought it was this week. So
Well,
we'll have
check,
to-
I don't know, check
Yeah.
check tomorrow morning to see if we have this one Thursday, either this Thursday or next Thursday, that there's a conflict with a class the rabbi's given. So
right.
we're gonna
But-
miss one Thursday.
Right, maybe it is next week and I'm wrong and
I
I'm
don't,
sorry.
I didn't write it down.
When Thursdays, it's 3 o'clock, right?
Thursday, it's 3 o'clock, yes.
3 o'clock.
Yeah, there's something with, my thing on my calendar is Psalm 27.
So then it is this week.
No, the
Yeah.
Okay.
26th, not tomorrow, the 26th.
Oh, the
26,
26th.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
what I
sorry.
thought,
confused
okay.
Everybody, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Okay, so if you want, if anybody thinks about it at night and they want to add something, and that, if that's helpful to you, be our guest. We could speak more about it tomorrow then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
much.
all for coming, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for
Thank you
coming.
for the
Thank you.
presentation. It was wonderful.
You found it helpful.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
was. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Later, Elaine.
Okay, Rich.
Bye, Richard.
Bye.
Bye, Ellen.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.